Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective. It's been a hot second. I think this is the longest I've ever gone without posting a video on this channel. Without getting into too many specifics, there's a lot of reasons for that. One, I hit my Drag Race fatigue. I definitely hit my Drag Race fatigue. Two, Drag Duel takes up so much of my time in my life. Three, life outside of YouTube has been kind of shitty, like kind of really shitty actually. And four, I don't have a fourth. I'm sure there's a fourth. We'll just let you imagine whatever you want that fourth thing to be, and whatever you think it is probably canon. Sometimes life sucks, but you just have to pick yourself back up and move on. You know what doesn't suck though? Drag Race UK 5. Before you watch this video, I highly suggest you watch this video first, which is, I made like maybe a year ago after UK 4 just ended, where I was kind of like, is Drag Race UK done for? Like, seasons 3 and seasons 4 for UK viewers, series 3 and series 4 just were not the tea. It was not the tea whatsoever. And I kind of broke down what wasn't working and kind of gave some solutions on like how to bring it back to the glory days of series 1 and 2. And by George, they fucking did it. UK 5 has single-handedly reinvigorated my love of Drag Race. UK 4, didn't really like. Season 15, it was fine. All Stars 8, gutter trash. And I was just kind of annoyed with Drag Race. I was annoyed that all the seasons coming out just were not hitting for me. And a lot of the issues were kind of spanning across all of the franchises. So I was like, well, do I even care about this show anymore? And I think that's part of why Drag Duel happened when it did, because I had all of these issues with the show, and I basically said, well, let me try and make one that fixes some of those mistakes. And I think overall, we've done that. I'm very proud of Drag Duel. If you haven't watched it, which, to be honest, many of you haven't, go watch it. It's really fun. You know, kind of going into UK 5, it sort of felt like if I'm not vibing with this first episode, I'm not watching this season. But I immediately vibed with the first episode of UK 5. Immediately. Every issue that I had with seasons 3 and 4 felt like they were all resolved, like right from the jump. And I felt excited for Drag Race for the first time in so long. And ever since UK 5, I've continuously been excited for Drag Race every week. Now with Canada 4 out, I'm watching that as well. And it feels like this is why I watch the show. This is why I watch Drag Race. This is why I talk about Drag Race. This is why my job is Drag Race. I feel that fire reignited in my little tiny gay heart. And I just want to talk about it because I went through a laundry list of things that were wrong with UK in that first video, and they fixed them all. So I want to talk about how they fixed them all, why UK 5 is working so well, and what I hope they take from this season into UK 6, into other seasons of Drag Race. So let's jump on this little train together. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Drag Detective. We are back in this bitch, and we're ready to go. So let's talk about UK 5. The biggest thing that I think makes this season miles better than UK seasons 3 and 4 is the casting. Not only the types of queens that they cast, but the dynamics that are immediately there when you look at the cast as a whole. UK 3, I think, actually did have great casting. You know, queens like Victoria and Kitty and River and Shariza and Charity. You know, there was some really interesting dynamic queens there that they just really didn't give a shit about. I mean, Victoria, obviously, before she left, they gave a shit about. Kitty made it to the finals, but for the most part, the queens that they put the most energy into were the queens that we've seen, you know, are maybe the least interesting. No shade, I guess, but shade to that season. And then UK 4, the cast overall just kind of felt top heavy. The people that you thought were going to make the finals basically all made the finals. And everyone before just felt like cannon fodder. UK 5, I will say, when I saw the promo, I'm not spoiled for the season. When I saw the promo and when I watched the first episode, I had an idea of, okay, I know the formula. I know how this works. Here's who the top 4 is going to be. I was very wrong. I'm very, very wrong because all 4 of them are now gone. Literally all 4 of the people that I thought were going to be the top 4 are out. And that's really exciting to me because I call the top 4 in UK3, I call the top 4 in UK4. To like have a season where my expectations going in were nothing like what actually happens is so refreshing. There are queens coming into the season with dynamics already, like Tamara and Caramel, who are roommates. Storylines start forming right off the bat with Alexis St. Pete and Dee Licious. And there were queens on the season that made me excited from the jump, like Banksy, like Kate Butch, like Ginger Johnson. Like right from the jump, I was like, I cannot wait to see what these queens do. So right from the jump, casting, so much better, so much better. But on top of just the casting, the editing of letting us see the dynamics between these queens. You know, we saw some of the push and pull with like Banksy and Vicky Vivacious and Caramel when they were teamed up. We saw like the cool girls versus the weirdos during the Girl Groups Challenge. Like we saw this relationship with Kate and Ginger form, like their friendship. Tamara and Cara, like they obviously got a lot of content throughout the season. You know, and when I think of UK4, I can think of one relationship, Pixie Polite and Danny Beard, that really left any kind of resonance with me throughout the season. And this one, I literally just named like 4 off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting. And when you edit the story of the season around the relationships on the cast, it makes you care about the queens so much more because they're not just wind-up toys that, you know, go on stage and do a drag number. And that was another big issue with the past 2 seasons is there was no cast unity. There was no cast synergy. I didn't know where people stood. I didn't know who liked who didn't like who, like very, very vaguely. This season, I knew almost every relationship. I knew who was close. I knew who wasn't. I know who hated this person. I know who had a frenemy relationship with this person. And just as a group, they felt like united. They felt like they were all having fun. They all had their moments. They had their squabbles. Like it felt like a drag family. Whereas the last 2 seasons felt like 12 drag queens sitting in a room. And literally from the jump, from episode 1 and 2, I was like, in my head, I know who this top 4 is. It's so obvious, not this shit again. I was honestly like, I kind of went in like expecting to hate the season, you know what I mean? So you're just kind of like already over it from the jump. And bitch, was I proven wrong. I remember texting Black Boy and being like, it's literally so obvious that like Alexis and Vicky Vivacious are gonna be in the top 4. Like they're gonna get pushed the whole way. And we saw who went home first. I remember that first elimination episode looking and being like, there's no way they're giving Banksy a win, even if she deserves it. Banksy's just not the kind of queen they would give a win to in the UK, based on her edits so far. Like, Dee is gonna get the win. She's set up for it. You know, she has the storyline with Alexis where like no one really likes Dee. They think she's a bitch. She was like rude to Alexis and belittled Alexis, and now Alexis is in the bottom. And Dee's gonna get the win, and Alexis is gonna send home Naomi. Like, I know how this works. I know how this goes. Well, none of that happened. Banksy got the win, and Naomi sent home Alexis. And from then on, that moment that Alexis St. Pete went home, not because she went home, not because I didn't like her, but because of the trajectory that I was expecting the season to go being completely unwritten before my eyes, I was like, oh, I'm down for this season. I'm very down for this season. And then the next episode, we get an iconic girl group challenge, the best one since UK2, and we get Caramel and Tamara Thomas lip syncing for the win, which felt correct. It didn't feel rigged. It felt like they earned that. A great storyline that, you know, wasn't shoved down our throats. It felt organic. Even things like losing Vicky Vivacious. Like, I thought Vicky was primed to be top 4. So when she went home on Snatch Game, I was like, oh my God, so literally nothing, like none of my expectations coming in are being met, which I think is a great thing for Drag Race. You want to be on your toes. You want to like not know what's coming next. And whereas like the last 2 seasons felt very predictable, this season doesn't feel predictable at all. I really wouldn't have guessed this top 4. Ginger, Tamara, Michael, and Dee. Like, they don't feel like the typical Drag Race UK final 4. You know what I mean? And I think it's because they've all kind of faced adversity. You know, I feel like Ginger started out with this like underdog edit, like she wasn't being seen, she was really kind of being overlooked, and then she just kind of came in with these wins. It wasn't like a Danny Beard or a Cheddar Gorgeous or a Ella Vidae where she came in slaying from minute 1. No, like it took her a minute to kind of get the swing of things, so it hasn't felt like she's been this dominating force since day 1. It felt like she kind of had to like pick up steam to get where she is now. Delicious doesn't have a win. The only one that didn't have a win at the top 6. So for her to still be here, to send home Kate Butch, a fan favorite, someone who was doing really, really well in the competition, is surprising, and it makes me want to root for her, because I'm like, maybe she really can do this. Tamara Thomas, I don't think has really faced adversity. You know, she's never been in the bottom 2 that I can remember. But she didn't feel like someone who was primed from the start to be a front runner. And she's really not a front runner. You know, she has 1 win, she's had a couple highs. She's, I think, shown that she's so much more than what was expected from, like, maybe the first 2 episodes. You know, when she was high for that, like, orange feather look, I was like, okay, it's this kind of queen. And she's proven me wrong every single week and has become my favorite queen on this entire season. One of my favorite queens in UK ever. And then Michael Maruli, who has also been super, super, super consistent and then had to be in the bottom 2 with Caramel, who is kind of the lipstick assassin of the season, and to take down Caramel, deservedly, was surprising. You know, it felt like they've all had to go through their own shit to get here. It wasn't handed to them. And, you know, not saying that, you know, things weren't handed to them, but, like, someone like Danny Beard, someone like Cheddar Gorgeous, someone like Ella Day, Kitty Scott Claus, they were never in the bottom. They never had to kind of fight for their place. So you just don't care as much. You know, I care about the queens who I see really have to put in the work to get there. You know, I feel like you really start to fall in love with a queen. You start loving a queen when you see them face that adversity. You know what I mean? When you see them in the bottom or just, you know, low, but like beaten down a little bit and see them come back up. We haven't seen that with, you know, the 4 I just mentioned. So when it's time for the finale, I'm just like, yeah, makes sense that they're here. You know, they've been killing it the whole time. Whereas like this top 4, I feel like had to fight harder to get here. And that makes me care about them more. It makes me care about this top 4. It makes me more invested. Because I have to be so honest, I knew it was going to be between Danny and Cheddar, and I kind of was just like, whichever, I guess. Like, I prefer Danny to win, and I'm glad that Danny won. But if Cheddar won, I would have been like, makes sense, sure. You know, I don't care as much. Whereas, like, going into this top 4, if Tamara Thomas doesn't win, I'm going to lose my shit. If Delicious doesn't make that finale, I'm going to lose my shit. If Ginger Johnson doesn't make the finale, I'm going to lose my shit. Like, I care so much. And I haven't cared for UK in so long. Since the double elimination of River and Theresa May. That was the final straw for me with UK. And since that day, I have not given a single shit about UK since episode 2, when Banksy won and when Alexis St. Pete went home. Because it showed me, okay, we're not just going to be doing the same shit. We're not just going to be following the same storylines and, you know, featuring the same kind of queens and uplifting the same kinds of queens. Like, we are going to do something different this time. And it has just been so exciting for me. Another critique that I've had of UK is the challenges. A lot of them are the exact same every single year. This was the chart that I used for the last video to kind of show the challenges that they use every single season, and it's, you know, and it's very, very underwhelming to just have the same exact challenge list every single year. This year is no different, really. We got the disaster class, which was different, which was really fun. But other than that, it's been pretty by the numbers. But luckily, because the cast is so dynamic, because the cast is so cool, I don't notice it. You know, they're bringing new things to these challenges. It doesn't feel like we're just running through the motions like it did on 3 and 4. So while I think that's something they could still improve on, I don't think it's as glaring as an issue this season as it felt in the last 2 seasons. Also, something that I really took issue with was the twists. You know, I was kind of saying I was like a greedy bitch because season 3 had too many twists, season 4 had not enough twists. This season felt like it was the perfect amount. Non-elimination premiere, and then another top 2 where no one went home, but it really felt like no one should have went home, so I was cool with it. And ever since then, it's just been pretty by the numbers, but those 2 episodes in the beginning really shook things up, really made me care about the cast because they all made it another week, that I felt satisfied. You know, I felt like it wasn't just like boring, same shit every single week, but it also didn't feel like, oh my God, like this is so much. Why are they doing all of this? They're being so extra about it. Like, it really felt like this was the perfect sweet spot. I also feel like there hasn't been much riggery on this season. I mean, obviously there's enough for me to do a riggery video when it's over, but compared to like seasons 4 and 3 and even 2, they're in 1. I mean, I think UK's pretty rigged all around, but this season has felt like the least rigged season of UK. There's still things going on, but it's not like maddening, and it feels like the fan favorites who usually are screwed by the riggery this season, not so much. You know, I know a lot of people think Caramel was robbed. I disagree. Kate Butch, who was another huge fan favorite, just went home, but I also kind of don't think that was rigged. Like, it really feels like they are doing what they can to make entertaining television and keep people around long enough to like squeeze out all the story they can. But it doesn't feel like they're prolonging people to the end who don't necessarily deserve to be there. Like, Delicious has won all the lip syncs that she was in, so I can't be mad that she's in the top 4. It's like Cameron Michaels. Cameron won all those lip syncs, so why would I be annoyed that she's there? She fought her way. She might not have won challenges along the way. I mean, Cameron won one. Delicious has won none. She might not have won challenges along the way, but she's had to prove herself in other ways, which she has. You know, Ginger Johnson, do I feel like all of her wins are deserved? No, but I also feel like she could have won that makeover and she didn't. So it all kind of like evens out in the end. There's yet to be an episode of this season where I turn it off and I feel upset. And I feel angry. Caramel, even with Caramel and Banksy and Kate Butch, who were, you know, 3 of my favorites who all went home before the end, I felt at peace with their eliminations. You know, they felt right. It felt sad that I was losing them, but it wasn't like they went home like a Dakota Schiffer, where I'm like, what the fuck was that? Or, you know, a River Choriza or a Charity, where I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, you know, when your favorites go home when they don't deserve it, you leave pissed. This season, I felt at peace with it. I felt like, you know what? I think it was their time. Unfortunate because I love them, but I'm not going to fight that. And it's been a long time since I've watched a season of Drag Race and not had, like, my blood boiling at any given moment. And, you know, I think that this is how you do it correct. There's obviously riggery, but I'm not sitting here pointing it out every single episode like, oh, this and this decision and this and fuck the judges for this and da-da-da-da-da. I'm leaving like, okay, like that was rigged, but I see why they did it and I'm okay with it. Like, it makes sense. Specifically like Tamara and Caramel in the design challenge, with Tamara being high and Caramel being low. I was like, I think they both could have been safe. Maybe Tamara could have been low. But I see the storyline that they were trying to tell, and it really didn't affect anything. Neither of them won or went home. So I'm like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Overall, this season has invigorated me. I feel like a new man. I truly feel like a new man. And I think part of it is also running my own drag competition now. Like, it's hard to judge. It's so hard to judge. And like every week we get called out for being rigged, whatever. And, you know, I think it just is true that no one is going to agree with every single placement. No one's going to agree with every single, you know, top 2 or bottom 2 or win. Like, there's no way that everyone can agree. But I think as long as I can leave the season feeling like it wasn't staged and planned from the start, which I did feel with 4 and 3 and somewhat 2 and 1. I keep doing this. But like I said in the other video, I think the top 3s and 4s were planned from the start. They felt very planned from the start, except for maybe like Jombers. Everyone else, like, I feel like I could have guessed that from the jump. This season, nothing feels pre-planned. Nothing feels like they knew going in exactly what they were doing. They weren't going to ever stray from that path. So even if there are things I disagree with, I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. You know, even, you know, me and the other judges on Drag Duel, we don't always agree. You know what I mean? Like, we look for different things, and different things entertain us and excite us. Or the opposite, different things, you know, make me go, ugh, I don't know about that, or, you know, things like that. So I think now that I've hosted my own drag competition, I definitely see where some of this riggery can just be chalked up to people are allowed to have different opinions. People are allowed to see things in a different light. Does that mean there's still obvious riggery that is specifically just for storyline? Yes. Yes, there is. But I guess I mean with this season, I'm not seeing that as much. So I'm at peace with almost every single thing that's happened. Basically every single thing that's happened. And, you know, going forward, what can they do to keep this up? What can they do to improve? I think the 2 things that they can focus on now to like keep this momentum but make it even a step better is casting more diverse queens, not just with race, but I think that's something that definitely the UK could do better on, but just like the types of drag. You know what I mean? Like, the UK specifically has so many different types of like kooky performers. And when we were casting Drag Duel, we specifically wanted to get people who weren't the same. We wanted to make sure that our cast didn't have 4 people who could do the same thing. And UK, I feel like there's a lot of people that could do the same thing, and we'd be like, yeah, sure. So I think different types of drag would make things just more interesting. And I think more diverse challenges. Give us not just the same shit every single year, the same exact order, basically. You know, the roast is going to be top 4. The makeover is going to be at the top 5 or the top 6. You know, an acting challenge around there too. Like, I feel like different challenges and different types of drag can only diversify the experience and make it feel like something brand new, like something you're not used to. That can only do wonders for your show. So, to the producers of Drag Race UK, I think those are the 2 things that you can still work on going into UK 6. But like, they've improved so much in just 1 year. And I think because of the response to 3 and 4, like, I think that is exactly why. You know, like my UK 3 videos, they did pretty good. They did fine, but my UK 4 videos did not do well. And I think it's because so many less people watched. So I'm interested to see how this video is going to do, how the Riggery video of this is going to do. I hope that people actually did tune in, you know, just by word of mouth. I think this has been pretty beloved by most people. I haven't seen really much negativity about this season. So I'm hoping that people tuned in and, you know, got to see this like comeback moment for UK. So if you haven't been watching UK, but you watched this video, I would 1000% watch it. I think it is one of my favorite seasons in recent years. I'm consistently entertained. I'm consistently like heartwarmed by the relationships and by the storylines. And this is really just top tier Drag Race. You know, I feel like 1, 2, and 5 are all very strong seasons of UK. And I would almost, I mean, depending on how this ends, like this might get put above season 1. This could potentially be my second favorite season of Drag Race UK. So I'm excited to see how it ends. I'm excited to do the Riggery videos on it. I'm excited to, you know, really dive into every single detail with a fine-tooth comb like we like to do. So if you have not watched that season, do it now before the finale, before we get into the Riggery videos. I promise you it will be worth your time. Something that's also worth your time is Drag Duel. We just did our version of Snatch Game, and now we have a mix challenge, something Drag Race has never done, but is so, I think, cemented in what drag is, you know, putting together mixes and telling stories through the mix that you create. We're doing a mix challenge coming up. So we did a design challenge with unconventional materials. We've had some great lip syncs. If you're looking for some drag outside of the international seasons that are currently running, and you're looking for drag that's different, you know, we have kings, we have alternative performers, we have queens from countries that have yet to be on a Drag Race season. Talking about diversifying your drag, that was our main goal on Drag Duel, and I think we fucking did it well. So go check out Drag Duel if you haven't yet. And thank you all for watching today. I know I've been gone for a second, but consistent uploads are back. We're back in this bitch. We're ready to go. Mental health check, good. You know, everything is coming up roses, coming up daisies, coming up. Everything is coming. Some things don't change, and me being a dumb bitch is definitely one of them. So make sure to subscribe if you are not already. I'm sure the algorithm is going to not push this video at all since I haven't posted in like a month and a half. So make sure you subscribe so you see the videos that start pumping out. We're so close to 70K. I would love to hit 70K by the end of the year. So please subscribe if you are not already. The links to all of my social medias are in the description below. And thank you all for still watching me after all of these years, after a month and a half long break. If you're back, if you're here, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I will see you all very soon. I'll catch you in the next one.